see how many generations are there. And I don't know, on Google, it showed 7. Now, I don't know if there are 7 or there are more than 7. So let me just read them out, because I really did not know there were so many. And it starts with the greatest generation. Never heard that, never heard. Greatest generation, which was in 1901 to 1924. Okay? And then it went to silent generation. Now, what does that mean? I really don't know, but the generation of today is not silent. So it has to be way back then. Then we had the baby boomers. Then we had Gen X. And I did not know that I fell in the Gen X. I thought I was in the baby boomers, but yeah, that was, but it was good to know. Then we had the millennials, and then we had Gen Z. And then I read something that I haven't heard of. It says Gen Alpha. Never heard of that. Okay, 2013 to 2025. So we have that for another 2 years. So amazing journey from 1901 to 2025. We had 7 generations that we crossed. So this was the only thing I'm going to introduce this topic with. And with that, I'll call upon Subbu, who is going to be the moderator. Okay. Subramanian. Subramanian Kalpathy, he is the global leader of learner experience and advisor, talent development in DXC Technologies. Subbu enables learning for DXC's 130,000 employees. Prior to DXC, Subbu was in a variety of talent consulting roles with EY, Nolscape, etc. Subbu is an ICF credentialed ACC coach. Okay, with that, I was going to say welcome Subbu on stage, but he's already here. And sorry. No problem.
Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that.
I just want to felicitate you with a small token.
Thank you so much.
With that, I hand it over to Subbu to introduce the speakers.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, folks. My name is Subbu. Subbu is short for Subramanian. First of all, thank you, ICF Pune, for having me over. It's my first time, in a conference, not in Pune. I'm coming here after a long time, so it's really wonderful to be here. I know it's a post-lunch session, but before I invite the other speakers up, I think it'll be nice to do one quick thing. Will everyone please stand up, if you don't mind? Yes. Just stretch a little bit, stretch your legs a little bit. I know you've been sitting for the last hour, hour and a half. And there's one more panel coming up, just to loosen things up a little. Yeah? Why don't we circle clockwise once? Clockwise, all the way, all the way, all the way. And then anti-clockwise, the other way, all the way, all the way. That's it. No more antics. Please sit down. Yeah? Great, thank you. Thanks for playing along. So with that, I'm going to, I have the great pleasure of introducing my panel. It's the best part of this entire exercise. So I'm going to start with Shradha. Shradha Mehta is the Group HR Head LNOD at Thermax Limited. She is an HR professional with diverse experience across multiple functions of HR, including business partnering, talent management, OD change, and sales compensation. She's proficient in working in a matrix environment with senior business leaders. In fact, she's just coming from a senior leadership workshop herself. She told me while she was coming in. So, and of course, she's worked with a whole host of organizations, including Career Arcon, HDFC, Samsung, HCL Infosystems, etc. Give it up for Shradha. Next on the list, we have Professor Winston Jacob. He's, I'll call him Winston Sir. He is a certified, chartered, and accredited professional consultant with a proven track record spanning 50 years. Okay, we are very privileged to have him here. He, of course, also leads the Bangalore chapter of ICF. He was formerly the Papua New Guinea Rural Development Bank. He was a part of the bank as the principal consultant. So he spent close to 33 years living in Papua New Guinea. That's something that you can talk to him about after the session. Of course, he has diverse experience. I don't even know where to start and where to end. But most recently, he's been working with the United Nations in an advisory capacity for the Asia-Africa Forum. Right? So with that, we welcome Professor Winston Jacob. Thank you so much, sir, for coming in and joining us. Then we have, of course, Tina Rastogi. Tina heads HR at Sybage. She's a part of the governing council at NHRD in Pune and is also the treasurer. So she has over 2 decades of experience spanning multiple sectors, including manufacturing, IT, BPO, product engineering, etc. She also spearheads initiatives with a keen focus on highlighting business imperatives and cultivating a culture of talent excellence. She is embarking on her ACC journey. Let's all wish her the best. And with that, thanks Tina for joining us. And of course, last but definitely not the least, we have Dr. Shikha Sindhu also joining us. Dr. Shikha Sindhu is an academician. She's also a motivational speaker, a leadership coach, an OD culture consultant. She's a PhD in organizational behavior, and which means she has a deep understanding of org dynamics. She holds accreditation in a whole host of psychometrics, including MBTI, FIRO-B, etc. She is also a published author. She's written a book on strategic HRM, and she was also recognized as best faculty in HR at the Pune Education Leadership Awards in 2019. And she has a whole host of other accomplishments. We are privileged to have her also with us today on the panel. Right, so with that, let's get started. We had a brief introduction about the topic, so I'm just going to reiterate why we are here. We are here to discuss two very important related subjects, right? So one is the impact of the multi-generational workforce that is at work today. So that's one part of it. And on the other end of that particular topic is coaching. So how is the language of coaching evolving, or how should it evolve rather, to be able to accommodate the needs of this diverse group of people that we have at work, right? So that's the big question we are hoping to answer for all of you here. Of course, in the introduction you heard there are multiple generations working in the workplace today, and depending on who you ask, you will get a different answer of what generation starts first and where it ends and where the next generation starts and so on. But suffice to say that there are different generations at work today who bring in very different nuances, experiences, perspectives into how we view work, and there are enough and more that's been said about each of these different generations as well. But just to kind of set the context, right? You might say there are 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 generations at work today. There is a body called as the Pew Research Center in the US, some of you may be aware, has been studying this entire aspect of how generations should be defined over the last many years now, for the last couple of centuries. Also a bit of context here, I wrote a book called The Millennials, which was published in 2016 by Penguin Random House. So I did my fair bit of research to understand what these generations are about, and I wrote on the subject. Right? So through that process, I went and did a lot of research, and my anchoring body for that research was the Pew Research Center. Right, and they have a very clean definition of multiple generations at work. So we of course borrow from that research, and in India of course we have our own cultural nuances. We are anyway diverse as a nation. Even in this room there's so much diversity of people from different walks of life and from different parts of the country. So it only adds to the mix and it complicates things even further, right? So it's a very rich topic to therefore discuss on, right? So that's the context I wanted to set. So we have, as we heard, we have the silent generation, we have the baby boomers, we have the Gen Xers, we have Gen Y or the millennials, we have Gen Z, and Alpha, of course, they're all babies now, they're growing up now. So we have all of these different generations in the mix today, and all of them have probably different ways of thinking about work, about thinking about life, different values, different skill sets, different aspirations in the way that they view topics like generative AI, for instance, because the last panel was talking about Gen AI. So if you were to ask somebody who's a baby boomer versus somebody who's a Gen Z, you probably get different perspectives about the same topic, right? So therefore, with that entire mix of what we call as khichdi in the Indian context, right? We have the diverse mix of people at work today. That's the context that we are in. So with that, I'm going to ask the panel to kind of chime in, and we take it from there. So the first question, I'm going to direct it towards Shradha because she's sitting right here. So question for you, Shradha, is from your perspective, how has workplace diversity, right, in the way that it has evolved from a generational standpoint, what does it mean from an organizational lens? In your experience, how do you think things have changed?
Thank you, Subbu, for setting that context and telling the audience about the multiple generations. So, at any given point of time, the nature of people who comprise most of your workforce, and by nature I mean, motives, values, preferences, that is going to have a very important bearing on the kind of priorities, practices, and dynamics that the organizations will have. Okay. And from that lens, if we look, I see there have been several major shifts in the workplace itself that we have seen in the past decade. The first one is in the area of loyalty, and every one of us will relate to that. So loyalty that employees have to their employers, and the related concept of job security. Okay. So people coming from today's generation, they don't want stability. In fact, they will move to opportunities that will promise them more exposure, learning, new challenges, and just a lot of variety and change in whatever they are doing. Okay. But what does that mean for organizations like us? Is that we will have to intentionally create that kind of environment. And we are seeing a lot of organizations, we are now, intentionally creating systems where we are designing and crafting very specific jobs for people, especially the, more younger generations. We are trying to leverage cross-functional collaboration so that our employees they have access to different kind of projects which they can do outside of their regular work area. And, I'll just share an example from my own organization, something that we have implemented for our early and diversity talent. So we have created a program where we curate 2 to 4 months projects from across businesses at Thermax. And these people who have been identified as early and diversity talent, they mandatorily have to pick up one project as part of their goals in a year. Okay. And this doesn't just let us, help us develop them in, other skills, but we're also able to break that perceived monotony and that sense of stagnancy. And they're just happy connecting with working with different kind of people and doing things outside of their regular day-to-day work. So that's one area. In the same line, we have also seen that people are now, they are adopting very non-traditional modes of work also. So they don't understand what is 9 to 5. Our team members, they're willing to work until 2, 3, 4 in the night. They would work the entire weekend, but they want a lot of flexibility. Okay. What that means for us is that, and we have seen, I think most of the organizations today have flexi work environments, policies that we have. Some of us are also trying to adopt, results-based work environment, where we focus only on the deliverables and nothing else. And that calls for a very different approach to performance management and, again, changing the entire mindset of people, because again, we have people coming in from multiple times in the organization. Some would agree to it, some would not agree to it. But as an organization, we are constantly driving that mindset shift. Apart from that, I think I've also seen a very big shift in the practice of innovation itself. I think the kind of innovation we are witnessing today, the scale of innovation, it was never before. And I think most of it is driven by the younger generation of people today. Okay. And as organizations, how we are shifting in terms of our practices, policies, is that first we are we are acknowledging that we need to break down that traditional top-down channel of communication and top-down channel of flow of ideas. Okay. Today, we are intentionally creating practices and systems where ideas can flow across, and even critical projects, innovation projects, can be led by younger people, okay, who are willing to take more risks, experiment, fail, get more feedback, and then stand up back again. So that's another area that we are seeing a shift in. And finally, I think there's a very fundamental shift in the style of leadership itself that we are witnessing as organizations. So, as more and more people from previous generations are moving out of the organization, the younger ones are taking up the leadership roles. And what that means is that they are driving a very different kind of culture. You can look at their decision-making styles, look at the kind of values they are driving in the organization. And, they're focusing more on experimentation, they're taking more risks. And that is very, very evident in the business outcomes decisions. Talking about Thermax itself, it's just a couple of years back that we've seen a tremendous change in our leadership team as more and more of our senior leadership team, was retiring. And we have younger senior leaders coming in at every level of the organization. We have seen, a completely, a big transformation in the way we operate. Our entire business model, revenue models have changed. We used to rely on long-term traditional projects involving core technology, core products only. And we are now moving to doing short-term projects with clients where we are doing end-to-end energy transition with them. And that's becoming like a very big source of revenue for us. And all of this is, the way we see it in the organization, is a product of the change in leadership styles that we are seeing. So I feel these are some of the shifts that we have seen in the recent past.
Fabulous. Yeah. Thank you so much for putting that together, in context of, I suppose, a microcosm of, within an organization and how Thermax is experiencing it. And I'm sure those of us who work with or inside of companies, we also experience similar thoughts. We'll also open it up for us to kind of chime in later on. But thank you so much, Shradha, for adding on in terms of how things are changing from an organizational lens. I'm going to ask Dr. Shikha Sindhu to kind of chime in next, right? So, and I think Shradha also touched upon it very briefly. Is there a shift in the value systems, right? You have a lot of youngsters at work today, and of course you come from education, right? And I'm sure you also have several, stories to share in terms of how this pans out. So, do you think there is a shift in the way that beliefs and values are getting changed fundamentally in not just organizations but also institutions per se?
Baby boomers, they valued, loyalty, hard work, and respect for hierarchy a lot. Gen X, I believe they valued work-life balance and stability a lot. Millennials, they started valuing collaboration, diversity, and work which provide them a sense of purpose a lot. Gen Z, they value authenticity, mental health, and social responsibility a lot. Before I answer your question, there are two incidents which I would like to share with you. Sure. So I work with a management institute and we are into PG education. So all the time I'm surrounded by these like 22, 23 years old who will now be, entering into professional careers. So me and my sister also work with a management institute. So her institute had taken the students to Goa for a summit and a conference. So they all had checked into the hotel, and at night, 3 a.m., so there was continuous like bang on her door. She woke up and then she opened the door. Now there's a student standing outside, 3 a.m. night, and now she's frustrated. She's like, "What's your problem?" And the student is stunned. Actually, student thought that this room belonged to one of his friends. He didn't really know that faculty would, it's a faculty's room. So now student is just looking at her and she's like, "Yeah, I ask you, what's your problem? Why are you disturbing me?" He's still not answering. Now she shouted at the third time and the student did, "Chill, bro." And she was shocked. She was stunned. I mean, I tell you, this incident has possibly scarred her for life. She was like, "How could you talk to me like that, Shikha?" Now, yesterday, my institute, we are sending students to Dubai for an international business exposure program. So we are in process of group formation, and then, your travel date is so and so, things like that. So the faculty in charge for this entire exercise, she came to me in evening and she said, "Ma'am, I really need your help. And there's this group of 5 boys and they're really disturbing me a lot." And because they wanted to change their group from, group X to group Y, because friends are in group X and we are in group Y, so we won't enjoy the tour, although it's supposed to be educational tour, but you know how it is. So I said, okay, let them, bring them to my office. So my faculty in charge, now these 5 boys, and I said, okay, what is it? And they says, "Ma'am, the entire division is in group X and we are in group Y. Why us?" Now the moment this boy said, "Why us?" my faculty, look at the language, ma'am. Look at the language. That is how they have been talking to me. They have been continuously coming to my workstation and say, why have you done this to us? Why us? Now, in my head, I'm telling my faculty, chill, bro. it's, it's cool, man. They are just exercising. They're right. They're asking a question. I mean, operate from a neutral space, just respond and not react. But it's so difficult for us because this generation, you know, they what they expect from you is how the expectation has evolved was your question. Authenticity one, and then prove your relevance. And we operate from a mindset that I'm your superior, I'm elder to age, I am your teacher. In my profession especially, because we belong to a country which had like Guru, Shishya, Parampara. Now, just because I'm your teacher, you got to respect me. And they are like, that's not happening, bro. So, so there's so much of disconnect. The language is so different. I'm loving this discussion, the panel discussion, tombs. You know what is tombs? Too much. So I've learned it from my students that too much is tombs.
I did not know.
Once in my session, there was a particular student I found him very distracted, and I felt that he was not paying attention. I said, I can literally see that you are not there in my class. What's wrong? And the student's like, ma'am, it's BT. I said, BT? He said, bad trip. I said, bad trip? Yeah, oh, you don't know. It's just that when you're not emotionally, there, so you are on a bad trip, and bad trip can be because of several reasons. You had a breakup, bad trip.
Wow.
Okay, so it's BT, ma'am. I said, okay, nice. A lot of lessons to learn out there. So,
I think we're all getting educated in the
I know. So gone are the days when I would approach my session thinking I am going to teach them something. It's like, I'm going to, learn something new today. But still, it has changed so much. But it's just that, are we ready to, accept that change, and are we ready to kind of embrace it? Or are we still stuck that, why did you talk to me like that? This is not the...
Right.
I see so many haws around me all the time. Haws is, there was a fresher party yesterday. Somebody showed the videos and pictures, and how they were dressed. This Dubai trip, now my faculty come back, and they come back all shell-shocked. I said, what happened? My God, they were smoking. That's not the problem. Problem is, I'm their faculty. They were smoking right in front of my face. Haw. So there are like so many haws all around that, of course, there's disconnect, lot of disconnect. And their expectation is just be authentic. And, in ICF coaching competency, we talk about listen actively. So, coaching presence and create presence. So just be present, operate from a neutral space, and then you will be able to understand me. Now, we are stuck in that mindset that, one-up position. So I think that's where the disconnect, and that's how their expectation has evolved. We can see that, but we are not ready to evolve with them to a great extent, is what I feel. At least that's what I see around me happening.
Thank you, Shikha, for that visceral experience of how it feels from a faculty standpoint. I think all of us kind of experienced it through that story. So thanks for sharing that with us. I think it's also the perfect segue for me to invite Professor Winston here to talk about, so therefore these are clear challenges, right, that we face between generations working together. And how can we, people, all of us, how can we work together to address some of these challenges in managing expectations, right, with each other? It's not about one particular generation, but how do we manage that? What's your view?
Thank you. Very interesting. But that's reality. That's what's happening today. And while on this topic, actually, I've done a bit of research, and I found that there are 15 challenges that we are all facing today. And the first one is, it's a multi-general workforce that we have. And there is a lack of clarity, as we already heard this morning. Mm-hmm. When you don't have clarity, then there is a lot of confusion. And this confusion that's erupting the whole system. Mm. And the third one is lack of communication. when people don't communicate in the proper wavelength and manner, then there is a problem, and that's a challenge. And the other one is change of fatigue. People are getting, there's fatigue coming in, and lack of governance is another big issue, and inadequate training support. Because when these problems are coming up, there has to be training also done.
Right.
That's not happening. And that's a very, very important thing to look at. Being understanding too. When we don't understand the other side, and language is another very, very important thing. We've heard about the grammar that's being used.
Yeah.
If you don't use the correct grammar, it gives the wrong message too. So I'm a disciple of lifelong learning on an action learning mode, and I just want to address the formula of learning equals that Professor Raj Revans has come up with. L stands for learning, equals P is the program knowledge that all of us had before we entered this room. And the important factor he applauds there is the Q, the questioning of each other, having the questions, why we are not, or why we are behaving like this. And that's another very, very important thing. So those are a few things that I thought I need to share with you all today.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Professor Winston. I'm going to now ask Tina, of course, to now kind of add on. One thing that we haven't yet touched upon is, the fact that there is generational anxiety, right? There is a general feeling of stress, of being overwhelmed. We heard from the last panel about technology, etc. So therefore, there is this general feeling of, feeling overwhelmed, boxed in all the time. And there is enough more data to prove that it's only increasing. It's probably more perpetuated among youngsters, and we see that not just in youngsters at work, but also at home. Parents saw it during the pandemic, for instance, with their parents, with their children. So therefore, how can generations come together to work better to kind of address some of these issues, challenges of, for example, anxiety, right? How do we better address some of those things?
Okay. So basically, if we see the older generation, what we have, they are, because of their experience, they are much more calmer, they are composed, they are much more wiser because of, the experience, like I said. And the younger generation, the millennials or the Gen Z, Gen Y, all of them, there is some kind of, they want everything fast, they are restless. And that is what actually creates anxiety. So obviously, if we have them working together, that can definitely create a very good balance. In fact, in my organization, it's a 28-year organization, and 30% of my employees, they are veterans. So they started as software engineers, and today they are probably heading departments, and with the experience they have grown, and they have worked hard, and put in those extra hours. And here we have the average age of the organization is like, say, 24, 25, who obviously want flexible hours, like, Shradha mentioned. So what we try to do is consciously have the, intergenerational teams working together. Okay, so that really helps to create a collaborative, culture. And obviously, there are tools which are provided to them, like training, there is mentoring, there is guidance. In fact, we also do something called as reverse mentoring, because the youngsters, they are pretty strong on technology, like AI, ChatGPT. They understand better the trends. In fact, they're very strong on analytics. So we do a lot of reverse mentoring. Also, it flows from the top. We value, listening to all age groups, so that is something what we inculcate as a culture. We also have in-house counselors, who help these youngsters to deal with, anxiety and take care of their mental well-being. You'll be surprised to know that our counselor slots, are booked. Like say all day, she comes in for 2 hours, they are booked, and they are basically leveraged by these millennials. So I guess, yeah, just being authentic, listening to them, respecting them, having that mutual respect can create, a collaborative culture between the older generation and the new generation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tina. I'm going to ask Winston sir to come back and talk a little bit about. So far we've been talking about generations, organizations, education, how we can work together. I want to touch a little bit about coaching as well, right? So how can the language of coaching evolve? And since you're a coach, you've been doing this for so many years. How can the language of coaching evolve to accommodate the needs of the current generation and also the older generation? How do we get that in place?
Language actually is a very, very important thing, as we
as
mentioned
we
earlier.
Yeah.
And we've got to have the grammar straight.
Right.
Now, in Papua New Guinea, they've got 800 languages.
Wow.
And to transmit coaching over there was no easy task. It was a mammoth task. So first and foremost, I had to learn the language. Unless we know the language, we are not able to really coach them properly. So that's a very, very important thing that coaches have to understand. And the other important factor is the listening. We've got to listen. We've already heard. When people don't listen, there's a lot of problems that come up. So definitely, language is a very, very important thing.
Sure. Thank you. So I'm going to now ask, in that same thread, right? And Tina, also you touched upon some interventions that you are doing at Sybase. I'm going to ask Shradha to, kind of come in and talk a little bit about, again, coming at it from an organizational lens when you look at coaching, and I know you drive several leadership development initiatives at Thermax. How is coaching transforming as a result of, what we see on the ground, right? So what changes do you see from an organizational perspective?
Yeah, so, the best part about coaching is that it works across ages. Right? And everybody needs it and everybody appreciates it. The only thing we need to look at is the format of coaching, and see what is most effective for what group of people. So with more and more people from, recent generations filling up the workforce, I feel there are 2 or 3 things that organizations should certainly look at. Every one of us must try that. The first is using more of non-directive coaching. Non-directive coaching essentially, you assume that the coachee or your audience, they have the idea, they have the goal and the vision. As a coach, you facilitate them to explore more, discover more, and problem solve themselves. What it helps them do is that, it helps them feel a sense of autonomy and self-control. The top 2, most critical things that people want today.
Yeah.
Second aspect is, we should look at, how things are changing. People want to learn faster, move faster. They want to become agile, do things quickly, learn, grow. Okay, so I think that's where laser format of coaching also comes really, really handy and very effective. Okay, and it's like, while all of us here knows about it, but it's typically 10 to 30 minutes format. Where the coaches help them on specific challenges, okay, specific situations that they are facing, and just get them going. And it could take form of, like short conversations over water cooler, or even in the cab while you're driving to a meeting. So something like that. But the catch with both of these styles of coaching is that this can be only used when you have got a culture of coaching within the organization. And that's the bigger question to answer, that how do we develop that culture of coaching? I will just share what we have started doing. We are trying to strengthen our leadership development framework. So we have LDPs running at various levels of leadership. We have one at apex level, senior level, young leaders, and so on. And there's one at the bottom as well. What we have done is that we have made coaching, one-on-one coaching for our participants as a mandatory and most critical element of the entire leadership development program, which usually runs for a year, okay, for all of these groups. what happens is that the leaders themselves receive coaching for 6 to 8 months, which helps them in their own leadership journeys. But after this, we also look at the ones who show potential, and then we invest in developing them as coaches. So that's one place where we are trying to integrate coaching and develop more coaches within organizations. We also have a program like managerial capability program that we are running, and the goal is to have every manager go through this program at various levels. And it's a 2+1 day kind of format with 1 month of digital learning. So it's a long OD intervention kind of program. So one of the most critical modules is coaching, managers as coaches. Okay. We are also working on a platform where we can internally connect the coaches and the coachees. Okay, so these are some of the things we are doing, but I feel that we have to start looking at it more seriously now and start doing it more intentionally so that we can, use the various formats of coaching available.
Yes, absolutely agree, and fabulous on whatever it is that you're already doing in the organization, right? It's great. Tina, if I can ask you to kind of add on there, we, of course, when we go to business, there are always some outcome metrics that are looked at, like what is it doing to my engagement, or are people more engaged as a result of this? How is my performance? Is it going in the right direction? What is all of this adding up to, right? So have you seen, from your perspective, some of those outcome metrics getting, moving positively as a result of some of these interventions in Sybase or otherwise?
Yeah, so like how Shradha mentioned, we also have most of the interventions what she spoke about. And, when you talk about the organization, even if you want to inculcate coaching as a culture, it has to be aligned with the goal, okay? And for the board and the leadership, it is always about ROI, okay? Unless they see a return on investment, obviously, you cannot get coaching as a culture also or encourage any of those interventions. But yes, we do see some changes in our metrics, in our graphs. So like if you see, be it the attrition or, like say, wherever we have done our attrition has been under control. The promotions, what you see, wherever, we have these learning parts, there, there the promotions also, or the growth, what we've been able to give them. And obviously the employee satisfaction survey, that also talks about the satisfaction and engaging level. Okay. So these are some of the metrics which we've been following.
Okay, great. So for the last kind of, question for us as a panel, I'm going to ask Dr. Shikha to kind of step in. One point that we haven't yet touched upon is that usually when we talk about generations, we speak lightly, right? It's all in jest. We have fun with it, it's okay. But it's also important to keep in mind that there can be real stereotypes, right, that come to the fore. We may be probably using certain language to, bring out certain biases that we might not be aware of. So how do we, be a little cautious or also conscious, as professionals and especially as coaches, right? Because you've spoken about the language of coaching, for example. How do we be a lot more conscious when we are, talking about coaching from the perspective of making sure that we don't break those stereotypes or bring them to the fore?
Able to explain more effectively what I'm hinting at. So I keep talking to these students even when they become alumni and they are my ex-student. So this one particular conversation I was having with one of my ex-students, she's working in Mumbai night shift. So she said that today, what happened, ma'am, my night shift got over. So it was 5 a.m. in the morning. I felt like going to beach. So I went to beach. I was standing there alone and there were these two boys and one of them approached me and started having a conversation. So I think I spent some half an hour there. I had a nice conversation with this guy and then he said, can I drop you home? So I said, no, I'll manage myself. And then I came back home myself. So we exchange Insta handles. Okay. So we exchange Insta handles and so we can pay, I don't even know the language. He pinged me, yeah, of course. Yeah, he pinged me and then he said, up for a coffee. Then I said, yeah, why not? Let's go out for a coffee. So today I had like coffee with this guy and I came and now I'm not going to talk to him again, ever. I said, okay, what went wrong? So I didn't like the vibe. So he was, a little too clingy for 2 meetings. So I didn't like the vibe. So I think, no, it's done. I mean, no, I'm not meeting you ever again. So now I'm listening to this girl and I'm amazed. I'm like, then I shared this with her. I said, you know what, had I been at your place, I wouldn't have ever done that. So I'm standing on a beach and there's a stranger approaching me and, trying to have a conversation. Yeah. My first question would have been, do I know you? And he would have said, no. Then I'm like, okay, then let's mind respective businesses. I mean, so, and asking me for a coffee and then I'm just like that going out for a coffee with somebody I don't know. So I'm like, I think I would have never done that. So she's like, I wanted to explore. And if you're not up for exploring, you are not giving chances to you to make your life more interesting. So I was like, nice. That's new. I never thought of it in that fashion. Okay, you wanted to explore. That's one. And second, she said that, ma'am, for us, moments are important. So that guy added value to, in those moments, 30 minutes. So those moments, he made those moments little more interesting than what it could have been. So I appreciate him for adding value to those 30 minutes of my life, like those moments. And what is life? Life is amalgamation of moments. And I'm like, Gurudev. Oh my God. I'm like, okay, that's cool, bro. I would have never processed it like that. So what's happening here is, so once you start understanding that there is so much to learn from them.
Yeah.
The stereotypes and, oh my God, this generation is like that. Oh my God, what kind of value system they have. Oh my God, they're messed up. So I think those thoughts will be taken care of. And for that, all that you need, I think I picked up these two competencies, presence and listen actively. Yeah. All that you need is that. I mean, just operate from a space which is neutral space. You are actually there, mind, body, and soul. You are there to listen to them and then just try to understand, explore where does it take you, right? It possibly can take you to a beautiful place which you have never visited before. So I think that's the way to, break these stereotypes and to come out of that zone wherein we feel, these are like, the generation ka problem hai, these are like this, we are like that. So that one up, one down position that we take, it's not going any good. I don't know whether I said it before or not. What's happening is they see us as dinosaurs and we look at them as aliens. So I think the status quo would maintain like this. If we don't understand, there's so much to learn from them. The amount of risk that they take, it's amazing. So my students pass out and I meet them again, like physically I meet them again after a year when they come for convocation. They come for convocation, 75% of them have changed their jobs. 75% of them. I'm like, oh my God. So for us, like I am working with my institute, it's been 11 years. So, and they're like, there was no fun, the vibe was not matching and the challenge. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, maybe, as I said, there's so many things to learn from them. If we enter into that space, the stereotyping and then I am better, you are worse, I think we can manage that.
But that is the generation gap, right? Like say, for us, our parents always told us that don't talk to strangers, and here they want to kind of explore. And if we would go explore in our generation, they would be like, you'll have your mother, father, brother calling you frantically, where have you reached? So there was no scope of risk taking that time.
I think just one thing I would like to tell everybody that in workplace, there are these 4 generations working together. Yeah. I think the responsibility is more on the generations before Gen Z. Because we have seen the evolution. They only have heard our stories. They have heard our stories, they have not seen those challenges. It's very difficult for them to kind of relate. So yeah, they can't relate to all this. Now we have been like physically there and as I said, have seen the transition. So I believe the responsibility is more onto us to, find that common ground and find that space of, as I've been saying, the neutrality. It's more onto us.
Sure. Like Adam Grant says, it's better to be good ancestors than good descendants. Right? So That's a very valid point. Thank you. So I'm not sure how much time we have. Do you have audience question time, or are we on time? I'm not sure. 5 minutes? Okay, great. So first of all, round of applause for this amazing panel. They've been at it. I've been quizzing them non-stop and they've been at it. Any questions, please direct to any of us. We'll be happy to take. We have 5 minutes is what I've been told.
Not really a question, a comment. It's probably our generation is the first one that's seen so many generations together. Before us, there would have been our parents or their parents, and they've seen probably 1 or 2 or 3 max. And I think for us, we are seeing 4 or 5 generations together.
Yeah.
So to be fair to us, it is not easy. I mean, like you said, connect in and be open, but it's not easy. So I just wanted to make that point.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, it's not easy, agree. I think there's a question here. And at the back. So you go first. You go first.
Thank you. Great discussion, very entertaining and very thought-provoking. I just have a question. Have you ever been coaching a client, those of you that are coaching and wanted to say, chill, bro?
That's a statement in disguise. That's not
Whatever
a question,
you're thinking it, right? but many times, I think we can learn, in general, I think we can learn from all generations, and
yeah.
It's great perspective, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. There's one at the back, 2 I think, yeah. But we should probably try that next time, coaching conversation.
Hey, good afternoon, and thank you very much. And just sort of staying true to my provocative sort of earlier session. So here's a question for the panel, and I'm quoting, just because Gen Z and Gen Alpha want newer toys to play with, right? New learning, the can't span of attention, all of that included in the statement.
Yeah.
Does it mean they don't want stability? And I think that's a question that we should be really seriously pondering. And here's the addendum to the first one. Here's the addendum. Are we at an inflection point where we need to revisit the meaning of what does stability mean for Gen Z and Gen Alpha?
What does what mean? I missed.
What does the
stability
word
mean?
stability mean for Gen Z and Gen Alpha? Or the converse of that, are we looking at stability from our lenses when we have these conversations?
Sure.
So,
that's a great question. Anybody wants to give a shot at it or keep it open to the panel?
Okay. So basically, good question. So if, when we talk to the Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they basically want meaningful work. They want to know that the work, what they are doing, how is it contributing to the larger goal, and if they find that meaningful work, if you are giving them that work which has change and, it is not monotonous at times and some challenges, with the work which comes, you would also find stability.
Yeah, and just to add to that point, I feel that Gen Zs or even one generation before that, they are just very, very clear about what they want in life and at work. And I think other way to look at stability is that they are just more committed to their own pursuits than they are to the organization. It's not that they are stoic and unemotional completely. They connect with people, they relate to that, they have emotions, but it's just that they're more driven to achieve what they are set out to achieve. Now, whether we as an organization give them that or someone else gives them that. So, very good question, and thank you for that. I think we'll all reflect more on that.
Yeah, I just want to add one more point to that. I work with an organization called Hofstede Insights. They do a lot of culture study across the world, and there's some data to show that Gen Z is probably more stability seeking than millennials. There is some data, I don't have it right now to show you, but I've seen it. And this is not just in India, it's across the world. Because there is so much change happening all around us, there's so much, I think at some point, there has to be a tipping point. We may be at the cusp of that. right? And therefore, it does necessarily does not mean it manifests that people stay in the same job or role for 20 years. That's probably not the manifestation of it, but probably more stability seeking from a financial lens, right? Maybe less risk taking, possibly. So there could be that lens as well. So it's not just about what we see as anecdotal evidence, but also hard data, what is it saying, right? So I just wanted to leave the group with that point as well. I think there was one more question that somebody, yes.
Yeah. So I think multi-generational is a common scenario for all of us at workforce. At the same time, it is also a good idea for this generation to reflect that do we feel threatened? Do we feel threatened in terms of in their presence? Because a lot of things which they are able to enjoy, we have missed out because the generation we belong to. And that's where, as we talk about that, culturally they are more exposed. And that's why they bring a lot of openness in terms of, and the very recent incident where there was a judgment about the piercing. You know, how you people can manage having a piercing here. And that lady said that, that girl said that think about the Indian culture. We have piercing long in terms of the nose and the ears. They are also not very comfortable place to have piercing. The judgment you're putting it because it's new and it's something very uncomfortable for you in your views. So I think a lot to learn from them. And as you said that once they understand that mutual ground, they also are willing to learn a lot of things from us. The kind of a composure, the kind of a stability where we can stick to so long. So there's other side to it where they are willing to, but somewhere that judgmental aspect definitely makes them versus kind of a thing. That's what I felt is to be added.
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah, anything to add on that comment or?
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have agreed more with you. When I meet these students to collect faculty feedback, so very recently, last week, there was a faculty who was not getting good feedback and I just wanted to understand from students like what's wrong. And I will never forget this statement my whole life. The student said, the faculty fails to inspire me, ma'am. So I'm like, that's new. So until now, negative feedback meant delivery is bad, content is not upgraded, assessments are no quality assessment, I don't know what they are assessing. So until now, negative feedback meant things like that. And now my student is telling me faculty fails to inspire me, and I'm like, oh my God, as a faculty, do they even consider this variable?
It's not on the scale, right?
I need to inspire the student once I'm there in the session. So yeah, I mean, we can. So and if you can inspire them, they really value you so much beyond your imagination. So mentoring and are you adding value to their life is what they want. So, and for that, they are pretty like black and white. So they can really categorize you.
Right.
So if you can add value to their life, so then they value you so much. So yeah, she's right that, they both can learn from each other, but for that, I think little more effort required at our end.
Right, earn the respect, right, yeah.
Just to add, we hear a lot from our, millennials saying that, especially for the older generation, that they are fathering me or mothering me. So there's a very thin line between mentorship and fathering and mothering, which we need to clear that out and probably train them within our organizations.
Okay, fantastic. I've got a signal that we are at time. So thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Once again, big round of applause for the panel. Thank you so much, folks, for spending their time with us. Thank you. Thank you, Tooms. Tooms. That's mine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.